Hey everybody, it's Tony George along with Griffin Murphy. Griff back in Chicago after a weekend visit here in Kansas City where we showed him what a winning NFL franchise football team looks like. Oh man, nonetheless, the Gridiron six-pack went 4-2 last week. Hope you caught us over on Twitter or Facebook. We every now and then we do this on the StreamYard system I use, folks. And, of course, you can find that on my Twitter, and I copy Griffin on that. Follow us. It's at TGeorgeSports on Twitter. Griffin, what's your Twitter again, man?
At GMurphyWins. That's all my socials. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. It's all at GMurphyWins.
There you go. And, of course, Facebook is Tony George Sports. I've got a group page over there. So if you don't if you don't use one or the other, you can find it. Nonetheless, about 1,700 of you found it last week, and you got a 4-2 weekend out of it. Some interesting games last week, Griffin. Before we get to this week's show, you and I were real interested in sitting around watching that Ohio State-Penn State game.
Yeah.
We found out Penn State's offense still stinks.
Absolutely, man. I'm telling you, Drew Aller, he is an elite college football quarterback. And I mean, at elite, that's me giving him bonus on top of that. He is not an NFL quarterback. And that was exposed once again against Ohio State. The kid just can't win the big game, man. And under James Franklin, it's the same situation. Year in, year out. They can't win the big one.
Well, he had the call on the under. I had the call on the under for you on that one. And Griff got an under as well on his college card there last week. And, of course, the NFL provided some head scratchers and interesting things going on. So we're going to get to this week's action. As win, lose, or draw, there's water under the bridge now. We're on to this week. And we're going to start out in one of Griff's favorite conferences. Matter of fact, we got two plays from the SEC coming in here and two big games in the SEC. And South Carolina on the road at Vandy. Now, Vandy, my free play video last week right here on YouTube, where I was getting railed in the comments section. I can't put out all the nasty comments and F-bombs that people put out and calling us, no good SOBs, Griff. But I was getting railed for taking Vandy plus the 7.5 because you're buying into them. You're buying into them. Well, yeah, I kind of am. Taking Texas to 3 points, beating Alabama. They should have beat Missouri. And then they go on the road as a big 7.5-point underdog and win by 10 against Auburn. And then South Carolina last week pulled out a can of whoop-ass on Texas A&M, 44-20. Griff, Vandy, a home dog here, catching 3.5, total 45.5. And what we're looking at here is two really good ATS cover teams as well. Vandy covering 8 out of their last 10. Pardon me, the Gamecocks covering 7 out of their last 10 off a huge win. Interesting, both of them off surprise wins, I guess, for lack of a better term. Not really a huge surprise with South Carolina, Griff, but the gap in that win was surprising. Just total domination.
Yeah, Tony, this Vanderbilt team, I mean, both of these teams coming into this season, you could have looked at both of them and been, they're going to be at the bottom of the barrel in the SEC. These two teams, absolutely not. They have been thriving. And as you just mentioned, South Carolina, 5-3 on the year, just rolled over Texas A&M in a 44-20 final. Shane Beamer did it again, and he outcoached the hell out of Mike Elko in that matchup. QB, Lenora Sellers is only growing at that quarterback spot. He has a passing completion rating at 60%, but he's only thrown one pick in his last 3 games, and he's had to deal with Bama, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. These are three prime elite defenses. I mean, Oklahoma, you could say hit or miss, but they're a hit or miss team. They either come out and dice roll or they get absolutely blown out. South Carolina right now, they're 5-3 in divisional matchups and 3-3 in conference play. Vandy, on the other hand, they're doing a hell of a job against the spread. 7-2 this season against the spread. 3-0 against the spread as road underdogs, and 6-0 against the spread as underdogs in general. This matchup on a side play, Tony, I want absolutely nothing to do with. Both of these two teams have done nothing but ascend to the upside all season long. This is going to be a hell of a game to be a fan of watching on. When it comes to this is going to be a war zone in my eyes. We have a current total sitting at 45.5 points. Both of these teams have rushing quarterbacks, and both of these teams are dominant when it comes to stuffing the rush on the defensive side. So what is that going to do? That's going to force Lenore Sellers and Diego Pavia to both use their feet or use their arms opposed to using their feet where they're most dominant. Both quarterbacks sitting at 60% passing completion rating. That brings me to a totals underplay. I think we're going to see a defensive war zone in this matchup, Tony. I think it's going to go back and forth, very slow motion, very slow scoring game. So, Tony, in this matchup, I will be drilling the under at 45.5 points in this matchup. Now, shifting gears, Tony, we got a hell of a game coming here. Georgia rolling into Ole Miss. Ole Miss getting 2.5 points at home with the total sitting at 55 points. We talked about it yesterday or at your house in your basement the other day, Tony, about Jackson Dart. Dart coming off the game. Dude passed for 6 touchdowns and 515 yards in the air with 0 interceptions. Ole Miss just put up 63 points against an Arkansas defense that's been legit all season long. And then you have Georgia. They're perhaps one of the most dominant teams when it comes to college football across the boards, although their issue all season long has been Carson Beck. The kid's got 17 touchdown passes, but he's a turnover machine. He's got 11 interceptions, and that's been a massive breaking point for this Bulldogs offense. Tony, how do you see this game going? And can Dart come out again against this elite defense and do what he did last week?
You know what pisses me off is the week I decided to take Ole Miss with Dart. They played Oklahoma and just absolutely just laid a dog turd to cantaloupe patch on that one. Just an absolutely horrible performance. And then you got to take a look at Georgia and you go, well, remember when you brought up Beck, he threw 3 picks on the road at Texas and they still blew Texas out. That usually doesn't happen against a top 5 team where you're in their house and handling the ball 3 different times and they can't get anything done. That's Sarkisian from time to time not being able to win the big one. Lane Kiffin from time to time, whenever he gets in this limelight, whenever you get enough hype, whenever they get enough glory, and they're right there on the precipice of greatness, he coaches a dog turd game. So he can't get in a big spot and win it. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I like Georgia laying the 2.5 on the road, but that's not my pick. Etienne could be out, the running back for Georgia. Perry suffered an ugly injury last week. The running back that has 678 yards for Ole Miss, and their backup's banged up as well. What does all that mean? Well, although you have 2 defenses, Georgia allowing 13 points per game, Ole Miss allowing 17 points per game on defense, I like the over in this game. I think it's going to be a shootout. You saw what Ole Miss did last week. Now, since they can't balance their attack, or they don't have the talents to balance their attack against that Georgia defense, they're going to air it out. This is going to be a long game. They're not eating clock, pounding the rock between the hash, between the hash marks. And on the other side of the ball, I think Georgia will air it out without their running back if he's not healthy. And I think you're going to see a high-scoring game here. I can see this easily being one team in the high 20s, one team in the low 30s. I'm going to take the over 54.5 in this game. It's dropped a half a point from the open of 55. I disagree with the move. I know they're looking at those defensive numbers, but in a game like this, they're both going for broke, big time. And they're going to utilize two really, really good quarterbacks, despite the fact that Beck has been a turnover machine. In big games, Kiffin likes to air it out too. That's what you're going to have here. Now, we're going to go back to the Big 12 here and Griffin Murphy's alma mater, but I would be remiss in my duties if I did not tell you that free $60 account above our heads there on the screen. Go over to Doc Sports and get yourself a free $60. If you've never been a member, we'll park it in any new account. Comes with a profit guarantee and zero hassles. You can use it anywhere on the site that you want to, any handicap or any package. College basketball underway, Griffin, this week. And, of course, NBA hot and heavy, as well as the NHL, college and pro football. Oh, and the wrap-up of NASCAR, the season finale in Phoenix. That'll be up there on my last NASCAR pick of the season. So kind of sad to see that go. I love me some NASCAR. But Doc Sports, we got you covered. Tons of free content, written up free plays, survivor pool picks, you name it, we got it. Doc Sports, get over there and get yourself some winners this weekend. On Saturday, Griffin went undefeated last Saturday. I went undefeated on Sunday in the NFL. So catch us for a solid weekend upcoming there at DocSports.com. Last week, Griff and I sat and watched in horror as his alma mater went down in a stunning upset loss to Texas Tech at Jack Trice Stadium, which is an absolute snake pit to play in, as a 13-point favorite. We were kind of sitting there just looking at each other going, what is going on with Iowa State? They travel on the road to take on the Kansas Jayhawks, who last lost to K-State in a surprisingly close game. They played K-State real well in that game. Sunflower Showdown, big game. I believe that was on a Friday night, if I'm not mistaken. They've had maybe an added day to get ready for this one, Griffin. But Kansas, high expectations this year. Supposedly a very hyped up quarterback, running game that was been solid. They've lost six out of their last 7. A disappointing season. And I wonder what Iowa State's mindset is, because they were unbeaten and look to possibly secure the Big 12 Conference Championship this year. Now, BYU, I believe, is still unbeaten, and they're out front right now in that race. But Iowa State's hopes dashed a little bit, because I don't see BYU. If you look at, we talked about BYU a couple weeks ago, Griff. I don't see them losing out any game left on their schedule. So Iowa State, what's their mindset? Can they bounce back here? They're a 3-point road favorite, total 50 in this game.
Yeah, Tony. And, everybody's going to open this game right up, and you look at Iowa State coming in at 7-1, and I believe Kansas is 2-6 on the season. Why are they laying 3? Trap game, this and that? Well, there's a reason for this. Iowa State, obviously, as you mentioned, coming off their first loss of the season against Texas Tech last week in a 23-22 final. I mean, it was a last possession game. It's very easy to look at this game and jump all over Iowa State. 7-1, coming off their first loss in what we could so-call a bounce-back game in their eyes, especially considering the fact Kansas, yes, 2-6 on the year, 1-4 in the Big 12. But in the last 3 meetings between these two teams, Kansas is 2-1 against Iowa State, and they've given them a tough go every single matchup. Prior to last week, Iowa State's toughest game all season long was against West Virginia. They're 4-4 on the year. Iowa State won that game 28-16. Kansas is all offense, and with Daniels at the quarterback position, Iowa State, they're all defense. If Daniels can stop the turnovers in this game, it's going to be a tight one. Over the last 3 meetings with these two clubs, the average total is sitting at 62 points. This, to me, is different. Iowa State They don't have an elusive offense, and they haven't played anybody tough. They've had a very easy strength of schedule all season long. Kansas, they have a huge liability in my eyes with Daniels. He's already thrown for 9 picks this season. I love the under 49.5 points in this matchup. I don't trust either of these two teams' offenses, and Iowa State's strength of schedule rules heavily on how talented this team really is, which in my eyes, they're not a 7-1 team. They're just overrated, especially with this game being played in Kansas City. Give me that under at 49.5 points. Too many liabilities. Haven't seen enough talent out of Iowa State in this far this season. And Kansas, they give them a hell of a run every single season. That's their nemesis. So I like this to be a tight game. So I am going with the under 49.5 points in this matchup, Tony. But let's shift gears now and head right on into the NFL. We've got the Atlanta Falcons laying 3.5, rolling into New Orleans to play the Saints. We've got a total sitting at 46. Saints coming off an outright loss to the Panthers, which was absolutely pathetic, especially when you got Bryce Young leading the charge and Derek Carr actually getting the start for the Saints in that matchup. We're really starting to see how bad the Saints are as a club right now. In Atlanta, they're a hit or miss. It's Cousins. He's either dynamite or, as we talked about in person, Tony, he's either dynamite or the guy's absolutely brutal. He's a turnover machine. Atlanta, they're a much better team in this matchup, but can they cover the 3.5 points at the Superdome in this matchup? Tony, what's your take on this game?
Well, bear in mind, folks, and Griff, you can't repeat any of my language that you heard in my basement man cave. As I was in a private survivor pool with over 200 large prize pool, and only 16 teams left, and me and my team took the New Orleans Saints in that survivor pool.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. As in the immortal words of Scott Van Pelt, heavens to Betsy. That's exactly what you got last week out of the New Orleans Saints. And sometimes if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck and craps like a duck, it's a duck. And that's exactly what the New Orleans Saints are. They're just a bad football team. Now, many people have a hesitation factor, and they like to take an NFL team after they fire their head coach in the next game. I'm not in that camp. I am not in that camp this week. You're looking at, and well, I'm not going to be dissuaded by the fact that I have a monster 4-figure ticket on Atlanta to win their division on the futures bet. I told everybody that on our future show. Griff knows the amount of money I wagered on that.
Oh, I saw it.
So and right now we're doing good. So every time Atlanta wins, I'm happy, and especially when they win in their division. They're laying 3.5 here. You take a look at this game. Let's see. They score 24 points a game. The Saints allow 26. Matter of fact, the Saints are 28th in the NFL in yards allowed, 27th against the pass. Hello. By the way, Kirk Cousins, I know he has a dud every now and then. Trust me, I know. I had him in a game of the year on a total, and he looked like total dog poop. But at day's end, he's redeemed himself since then. They're sixth in throwing the ball in the NFL. 24 points per game. Also, we got Bijan Robinson and Aguilar running around. Well, the Saints are 25th against the run. My goodness. You know what? Sometimes it is what it is. This looks like a trap line. This looks like it should be 6.5. Griff, I'm telling you, it should be 6.5.
I agree.
I will take Atlanta in this game all day long. Kirk Cousins, do not dork me over again. I swear to goodness, I'm going to come down there to Atlanta and do something nasty. I'll egg your house or something. I'm keeping it's family entertainment, so I'm keeping it clean. But I do think, how do you think, Griff, do you see a path where New Orleans could win this game, Griff. I mean, I guess you couldn't see a path to where Carolina couldn't really win that game last week, but they're playing a shitty team. They're playing the
Yeah.
Saints. Now, the Saints, I don't see a clear path for them to win this game because they're playing a really good team. Your thoughts?
Tony, Tony, I couldn't agree more, man. You look at this line and it's absolute trap bait. I had the same thought in mind. And when you sent me this play, I was like, well, I had been looking at this and that was going to be one of my premiums. And the more that I looked at this play, I'm just like, I can't even touch this game. The number at 3.5, Atlanta is so much better. New Orleans was laying 7.5 last week and got beat outright to the worst team in all of football. So why is Atlanta right now laying just 3.5 points? The line makes no sense to me. That's why personally I don't have a side on it. But absolutely, Tony, if I was on board with this play, I'd be laying the 3.5 with Atlanta all day. It just seems like a trap line for me. So that's why it's not going to be in my premium selections going out this weekend.
Yeah, and I had Atlanta still left in my survivor pool picks. I would have used them this week. Damn it. But nonetheless, New Orleans has lost 7 in a row. They're just a bad football team. Derek Carr is not a good quarterback. He still throws the ball up for grabs. If Kirk Cousins is dialed in, he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. It's just he's not consistent. You know, I mean, he's got better numbers than Mahomes, and Mahomes unbeat. I mean, you go down the list, he's a head scratcher. You know, when he went out with that Achilles last year, when he was playing for Minnesota, he was it 7-8 games in the season. He was the number 2 ranked quarterback in the NFL before he went. I'm just telling you, come on. Plus, he's got weapons all over the place, and he's got a 1-2 punch at running back, and they got a very good head coach, believe it or not. And you know, honestly, I did think Dennis Allen was probably one of the worst coaches in the NFL, and he's gone now. I don't know who. They're not going to be able to pick up the pieces and put something together against a division rival in less than 7 days. Let's talk about crappy football teams. Griffin, I know you had a strong position on Dallas last week, and they kicked you right in the balls. I was sitting here with you, watching that. I was cheering with you, although I'm not a Dallas fan.
We know.
I was for my buddy. You know, I had other games I wanted to watch, but I watched this at my house with Griffin. It was like just like somebody dragging fingernails over a chalkboard. But nonetheless, Philly sitting at 6-2 on the road, laying 7 at Dallas. Now, Philly's defense last week held Jacksonville to 60 yards rushing and 155 yards passing. And Philly went on to put up 447 yards in that game against Jacksonville's defense. And as bad as Jacksonville's defense sucks, Dallas's is worse. Yep. Uh-oh. Ruh-roh, they said on Scooby-Doo. Nonetheless, total in this game is 41.5. It's dropped significantly. And we have Cooper Rush at quarterback, which actually might be an upgrade for Dallas. And C.D. Lamb was awfully beat up last week in that game, Griff. He could barely get himself up. I'll give him this. He's a tough kid because he was not playing 100%. He took a beating in that game, and he kept trying to go in there and trying to win that game. But, you know, this is a division game, and I think Dallas is just – they're out of it right now. What have they got left to play for, and how good is Philly on the road here with that head coach? They're hit and miss with him, but you can't argue that win-loss record with Philly.
One thing, Tony, I do want to agree with C.D. Lamb, man. I mean, that guy was an absolute warrior last week. The dude was nearly in tears on the sidelines, going back in. Even when he dropped that catch in the end zone, it was like, you know what? I'm not even going to be pissed off at the guy. He could barely lift his arm up. His shoulder was
Yeah.
completely ripped to shreds. The dude just kept going out and fighting. And that's what I love about NFL football players that are determined to win. And that showed a form of leadership. And that's what the Dallas Cowboys need right now. On the other hand, I want to rip the hell apart of Dak Prescott. This is the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And he's sitting on the sidelines watching his team because he's got a little bloody, swollen finger. Tape your damn finger up and get your ass back out on the field and go win a damn football game. Absolutely ridiculous. So now we've got Cooper Rush leading the charge for Dallas. Although he didn't look that bad against Atlanta last week, but this guy's not a starting NFL quarterback. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Trey Lance in this matchup get some snaps if Rush is not able to go legitimately play some solid football. Philadelphia, on the other hand, they're rolling, man. 4 straight wins. Jalen Hurts looks very dominant in the pocket, especially with A.J. Brown being back and healthy. The rush game with Saquon Barkley has been absolutely incredible. Philly's currently second in the NFL when it comes to the rush. Dallas, absolute cluster of a team, and they have one of the worst head coaches, if not in all of the NFL. Their defensive line getting blown up game in, game out. They did it all week last week, same story, blown up every single play. Well, now you have to deal with Philly, who has a 2-step quarterback with Jalen Hurts, who can not only air it out, but he's fast as all hell on his feet. Then you got Saquon Barkley, who's one of the best running backs in all of the NFL, averaging 6 yards plus per carry, which should set up the deep ball for Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. I mean, he's got weapons across the board. 7 points is a lot of points to lay here, especially in a divisional matchup, but I'm laying it, man. Dallas is a mess. They're 0-3 at home. Yeah. They've lost 3 straight games. Philly's 3-1 on the road with a 4-game winning streak. Give me Philly here, Tony, to light them up at -7. That is my play going into this one. And rolling over to our last, but definitely not least, we've got the Tony teaser, baby, so let's do it.
Yeah, and you know what? Philadelphia would be a great teaser down to -1 because I do not see a path with Philly's defense stepping up. I mean,
Cooper
Jacksonville's got a good quarterback. They've got a good running back. They've got talent at wide receiver, and they made them look stupid last week. You know, yeah, Philly covered a number, but they got out-yarded massively. But Philadelphia has a way of shooting themselves in the foot. I usually wouldn't lay 7 with them. They couldn't cover it against Jacksonville. But I'm telling you, Dallas right now is worse than Jacksonville. They're a mess, and they're beat up. They have no running game. They got Dalvin Cook in there now off the couch from somewhere, and he came off the practice squad. He couldn't do jack crap. They can't run block. They can't do anything. I would tease Philly down to -1 in that all day long. We got an interesting game this week between the Steelers and the Commanders, and Griff, the Commanders just keep impressing week in and week out. And Jaden Daniels, obviously, your Bears should have taken him in the draft versus Williams. I love teasing you. But nonetheless, and we've got Russell Wilson playing some ball for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got 2 really good head coaches in this game. Mike Tomlin is a damn good head coach, and he coaches well in big games and makes great in-game adjustments. And on the other side, Dan Quinn has done a hell of a job with a very young team, bringing in some playmakers, surrounding this talented rookie quarterback with a lot of pieces of the puzzle that have been fitting lately. Good wide receiver, good running game. I think this would probably be one of the better defenses that Washington has played this year, without question. I'm going to take the Steelers plus that 3 and tease them up to +9. It ought to be a really good football game, and I'm taking the points, getting them off that fall number of 3, getting them through 6 and 7. And on the other side of the teaser, how about those Tennessee Titans? How about that quarterback situation there, huh? What a total debacle. What a debacle. Hey, you think they missed Derrick Henry? You think they miss Henry running around? Henry make any quarterback look good. Oh, man.
Brutal, man. You got Mason Rudolph and Will Levis. Where do you go?
And the Chargers playing ball. Sean
Yep.
McVay, again, last year, they left him for dead on the side of the road. He coached them all the way into the playoffs last year in quote unquote a rebuilding year where he didn't even know if he wanted to come back as head coach. He gets them in the playoffs. Now, they're playing ball again. Stafford playing like a 25-year-old. They got their complimentary receivers back. They're running the ball better. They're playing some ball. They're laying 7.5 against the Titans, who, what was the last time they went on the road and played some? Oh, Detroit. Detroit's still racking up points on them. And the game's been over for a week. No, give me a break. Take the Chargers, tease them down to -1.5 in this one and stick them with the Pittsburgh Steelers +9. I'm really in that game. That game intrigues me on numerous levels, because another reason, and I'll get your opinion on this, Griff, before we let everybody go. Another reason I like Philadelphia to make a statement down in Dallas to cover that number is they're chasing the Washington Commanders right now for the division lead. And right now, the Commanders sitting on top. This is a crucial weekend for both these teams in both of these games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Tony, I couldn't agree with you anymore, man. And the Commanders, they are no joke. And I want to go back 2 weeks to the Commanders, and that was kind of where I sat, where they played the Bears, and the Bears defense held them down. And I had to ask myself, is the Bears defense legit, or are the Commanders just playing like crap right now? Well, the Commanders came right back out last week and put another huge number on the board. So this Commanders team is absolutely no joke with Daniels at that quarterback spot. Eagles are flying high right now. Huge matchups across the boards for both teams right now. It's going to be a race, Tony. That's for damn sure. It's going to be a race.
Well, Dallas is going to be in the back seat looking up because they ain't going nowhere.
Take a seat.
And of course, then there's the Giants. So, Dallas and New York Giants have a race to see who sucks worse. That's what's going to happen in that division. And we're going to see these two guys go at it yet this year. So that's going to be fun. Doc Sports is a place to be. I had a 1 and 2 day in college football last week, but I lost an 8-unit position. A very disappointing Saturday where Clemson just let me down and never got off the bus. I'll redeem myself this Saturday with a top pick on a 3-pack. I'm not going to do anything before Saturday. And although I did redeem myself on Sunday with a 4-0 effort follow-up after a very tough Saturday, I'm going to go ahead and yank the chain on one play this Sunday for a top pick on a 4-pack, and may even take a look on a rare Monday night position over at Doc Sports. Griff, what's happening?
Yeah, Tony. So as mentioned, I am coming off a 3-0 college football sweep. Same thing on deck. I've already got 2 plays highlighted. I'm waiting on one more line adjustment. So if that line adjustment does go in my favor, I will have 3 plays. Otherwise, I already have my 2 plays circled. That will be a 6-unit best bet, part of a 2-play card, potentially 3-play card. I'm waiting on that line adjustment. Obviously, as everybody knows, our picks are released on Thursday, so tomorrow. So I still have 24 hours before these picks are released. So I'm hoping I can get that juicy adjustment. Then it will be a 3-play card, but the 6 units already dialed up. And going into NFL, I have finally opened up the lid, capped it up, ready to go. 8-unit play of the year. That play goes off at 1 p.m. Eastern time. It's go time, baby. I already hit one 8-unit play of the year in college football. Now NFL, it is go time. I have found my match, and I am ready to let loose. So tickets already been punched. Lines already shifted in my favor, 0.5 point. So I'm ready to roll, man. I'm ready to go. 3 plays on Sunday, maybe 2 plays. I'm waiting on 1 still. But right now, I have 4 plays across the board already circled. 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. That 8-unit play of the year goes off at 1 p.m. on Sunday. So get ready, ladies and gentlemen, because I am jacked up and this edge is strong. So, Tony, we're dialed in and ready to go for the weekend, my man.
I got my phone right here. What's your Venmo? I'm Venmoing you $30 so I can get that 8-uni. Oh, wait a minute.
I'll shoot it right over. I want Arby's. Give me the gift certificate to Arby's and we'll call it even.
Dude, No. You sucked me dry last week. Food, booze, and boarding. And I had to buy towels so he could shower in my basement because I didn't have any towels for him. So you owe me the pick, dude. So text that right over.
I got you, brother.
I'll get a position on that. Doc Sports is where you're supposed to be. Tune into our YouTube channel. Thumbs up and subscribe. Be sure and follow us at G Murphy Wins for Griff on Twitter. Me and at G Murphy Wins for all Griff's social media, Twitter, TikTok, whatever.
Instagram.
His Tinder profile.
Instagram, man.
Tinder. And of course, follow me at T George Sports. Get over to Doc's. Get yourself some winners this weekend. Take advantage of that free $60 link up above there. Park it in your account. And we'll be trickling in some college hoops over the weekend as well. So be sure and get over to Doc's. Thanks for tuning in.